Welcome to Lamb's Horn. This is the PDT. My desire is to encourage and inspire men, especially C-men. I'm not a counselor, therapist, life coach, nor am I a financial advisor. But I hope that what I share will be received as a word of inspiration from a big brother, a loving cousin, a respectful uncle, and or a dear family friend. I can't make you receive, but I lovingly hope you do. Let them that have ears hear. Blessings unto you. Good day. This is the PDT. And today, PDT could stand for Perfectly Diagnosed Trauma. And that's because I believe that BGS has done that. BGS is likely my favorite manosphere speaker. His red pill topics and rambles or rants, more than the black pill or the blue pill and most others, are some of my favorite on the manosphere or in the manosphere environment. MGTOW, and he has various descriptions for his sites, including Save Yourself Black Man, SYSBM, I believe is what it is. He's experienced, he's thoughtful, he's patient, and tries to respect others. That is, until you become disrespectful. Then, my friend, it's on. I don't like the cursing, of course, but that is the world, and I live in it. But his wisdom, research, topics, etc. are beautiful. Much respect, much appreciation I give to BGS. I've listened to him a few years now, almost all of my manosphere years. I learned recently that he has been a talk show host for about 15 years from this video that I'm about to review. And that explains some things. For me, that explains the professionalism I feel as though he carries with all of his presentations and conversations. Respect! I sent him a Patreon donation once with an appreciation note. Know what he said? Thanks. That was it. Thanks. But you know what, BGS? Respect. Anyway, I recently heard this submission by BGS. At least here is part of what I heard and my responses to it. He entitled it, "The Problem is Heart," and it's one of his rambles. And so I will share a little bit of it here and there, cut it off, and give you what my thoughts were, my responses were to what he says.
Hey, my Emo brothers. Yeah, this probably go up in the morning. It was actually a late night. It's like almost midnight right now. And sometimes you have one of those dreams. It was actually a dream. I don't know exactly what my animal was trying to tell me, but I'm sure I will find out sometime later. It's weird couple of dreams, but I guess it makes sense.
So BGS starts off explaining that he woke up in the middle of the night after experiencing a dream and wanted to share what was on his heart before he lost it. And I know how that is. I get up in the middle of the night sometimes and write things down. And I thought it was interesting and really enjoyed what he presented, and it made me consider what he was saying. Of course, agree with some things and disagree with others. But here's part of what I considered as we start out. Consider that agents say men are simple. Yet, as always, they are so busy and intent on tricking and so insecure, often they can't see the forest for the trees. They can't get what they want, focusing on the look and feel of the tree and not realizing what type of tree it is, what's inside, and what it produces. Men are simple, or at least so they say. Men are willing to spend money, time, effort, and travel distances to find what they desire. And it's funny that agents don't understand that or try to put that down as a negative thing. Anyway, that's where my ideas or my mind traveled to as I responded, or should I say, listened to what BGS shared, and we'll go on from here.
What's missing today, what's missing was the interaction between men and women in general, and black men and women especially. Why going back and forth talking bad about each other. With this transactional love and this transactional sex and all this crap about all this hiding and lying with each other, especially women. Women, my what's been going on with me, especially with my family, with the women in my family, is the red pill and especially the black pill. If you have knowledge of it, you can see exactly what's going on. And the thing is that with the women, especially black women, they have been trained to lie and deceive and try to trick you into doing things with words and situations instead of coming straight forward. I always tell the women in my family, I don't need all that. Basically, you're wasting your time with all the lying, deception, and trying to put me in situations. And sometimes I've been put in situations by women. They only do it once. They only do it once, and then once you do it once, you can't do it again.
That part of the video is talking about what's missing between the relationship with black men and black women. And like he says, when you come to the understanding, when you get some red pill knowledge, as well as adding some of the other knowledge that he shares, that he calls black pill and so forth and so on, there's an understanding that comes. One of the reasons I appreciate BGS and I've been drawn to the manosphere and have enjoyed it is that it's been one of the positives for me as far as the internet, because for me the manosphere has been like a big brother or father that I didn't have in my life, that would come in, sit down, and share knowledge about relationships and interacting with women, what they do, what they mean, and the tricks and games and the dark side or other side of human character, period. It pulled the covers off of the fantasy that girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice, but boys are made of something and puppy dog tails, whatever, all the bad and negative things, that women were all good and men were all bad. With the manosphere, there was a lot of information that was shared, and the power of it was that it was shared from men all over the United States, all over the world, about their interactions with women and what they found to be true of what their experiences was. And what that did for me was validate, because a lot of things that they said I had experienced in my days of growing up, trying to be a good seaman, but having challenges or temptations or detours. I found a lot of what they said were things that I had experienced, that I had seen, that I had identified, but I questioned whether it was me, whether I was the problem, or whether it was just my relationships or my environments or the kind of girls, women that I was meeting or experiencing. But finding the manosphere identified for me that it wasn't just me, that other men were having these issues and had seen these problems, and that good men that were trying to do what was right or proper were being rejected for those things that were supposedly right and proper. The things that women said out of their mouth or wrote down in stories or said in front of audiences or in front of their mothers and their family was what they wanted. But when they got it or received it, they rejected it, or they went after the Pookies, Ray Rays, Tyrones, as today's culture identifies them. And like another friend of mine said, in bringing that reality, it opened up a totally new understanding and peace and assurance, knowing that and finding out, discovering that, or discovering the lies, that men were not all bad, and that I wasn't the only one, that these were commonalities, and the things that I saw were not mirages or illusions, but truth. Hard, realized facts about relationships, the world we live in, and the interaction between men and women. At least black men and women in my culture, my environment. And as I was discovering, many others all over the nation, all over the world. Anyway, regarding agents, again, they want to say that it is so simple, or that men are so simple. But what I have to say as we begin is men are what men have always been. It's the agents who have changed. Not that we all don't change, but the pendulum has swung too far.
The women that are in your life that you love, instead of being straightforward, they try and, they do what they do. My brother, he's pissed off because they're doing what they do. And I said, you know what? That's just women, that's just black women. And black women think they have to trick you into doing what's right instead of talking to you. But straight up logically, on your terms, right? And what's going on now is that on steroids. And that's how come men, black men especially, black men started pulling away a long time ago. And white men started to pull away in droves. That's when this stuff has really started to escalate.
Here I've experienced what BGS is speaking of, seemingly that black women, a large part of them, would not just speak directly or speak the truth, but always seem to feel that they had to manipulate or use or draw you into something, and that it wasn't pure. And it was always on the assumption that I, as a man, or men were trying to manipulate, use, or abuse them in some way or regard. And even when they found out that wasn't the case, many times wouldn't believe that your intentions were pure. And it was always because they blamed other black men, and maybe that you were different or unique, but they would still try to use that against you and put you in the same boat with the rest of them. And then when you didn't act like the Pookies and Ray Rays, or with the kind of trickery or attitude and manipulation that they expected all men to produce, then there was a disappointment because you didn't act like other men, and they wouldn't know for sure what to do with you. Yeah, so I experienced that trickery and that game that would be, if I in most cases wouldn't play around with it, or when I learned and decided not to go in that realm, I'd step away, and many times it would totally blow their mind. But the escalation that BGS speaks of here is the pendulum that I mentioned earlier, the pendulum that has swung so far. Because as I said, and I'll say it because so many times when I look at videos on YouTube, when men say something in generalization, meaning the larger or a large portion of women or black women, but not everyone, even though it's a generalization, women will always say, not all women, not all black women. They would throw that out there all the time. But at the same time, when they speak of men, it's all men. But if you reverse that same ideology, that same speaking point, and speak generally about men generally about women, and say most women, they would get incensed and would be very defensive about that. So today's soft guy error statements are just hilarious, and I love them. And at this point, I just say drizzle, drizzle, because as they say, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And if it sounds crazy coming out of men's mouth regarding the different statements that are made about dating and the relationships between men and women, then if it sounds crazy coming out of men's mouths, now you understand how crazy it sounds coming out of women's mouth. But of course, no, you won't understand it, because just like some of my family members, the black woman's attitude is that, well, we deserve this, or we've been done so wrong for so long that we can do it, but you can't, or it's a woman's right, or whatever. But that day and that time is over, because the knowledge of the red pill, the knowledge of that men are sharing online, lets us know that it's not all true. It's not all true. And that, as a matter of fact, that most men want to do right by their families and take care of their families and want to have decent and righteous relationships. Trouble is, a large number of women, not all, a large number of women don't want that, or go chasing after something else in their younger years at least, but then expect all of the crowns and all the rewards of a life they never lived and never even fantasized about. I need to explain the fact that when I say agents, I'm trying to make the difference between all women and those that have chosen to go the route that most women in a large part have gone in this day and time. Those women that many times I hope are not C women, but is more in relationship to society. My hope is that C men and C women take hold of the Word of God and the Bible, and takes those principles and applies them to their own life, in the belief and trust that in the end the Lord is going to bless, and that we're willing to accept the consequences of trying to live a life different from this society, because we believe that the rewards of the Word of God and the promises of God are stronger, are true. We want to live as if, the Bible is truth. I mean, the Word of God spoken from God's mouth created everything that we know. So it is truth. And that's what we should base our lives on, and even at least to the best of our abilities. So again, I believe that the escalation that BGS is speaking of here speaks to the pendulum that I mentioned earlier and will probably mention again as we go forward.
I said to her, in the past work bros, we were talking about getting together and marriage and stuff like that, and the first thing she said that women always say, black men don't really want to get married. Women want to get married, and black men really don't want to get married. I said, no, black men don't have anybody to get married to. And she said, how? I said, prove it. I said, it's easy. I said, but I mentioned the passport bros. Black men are willing to uproot their lives, get on a plane, and go find wives elsewhere. That's how desperate they are to find decent women to pair bond with. Your incels are willing to sit on their hands because they can't find decent women pair bond with. Most of the people we call incels are not incels. They can get women. They can get sex. They can get it taken care of, but they're not looking for sex. And they cannot describe what they're really looking for, especially in this internet age. Austin Holloman touches on it, but he doesn't quite use the language.
In order to find silver, gold, perfume, slaves, adventure, riches, a worthy opponent, love, men have traveled and left what was not satisfying and inadequate, left what did not meet the inner desire, braving loss, danger, being alone, injury, and even death, and always, Always, every time, whether Gold Rush, Christian Columbus, Lewis and Clark, deep sea exploration, space travel, etc. Always, almost every time, men have found what they wanted, were damaged, or died trying to find what they wanted, and they often loved and enjoyed the adventure more than what was found. Often men have found fortune, but they always found new women. Women eventually found them, or later, sometimes the men have sent for the women in their lives to come along later, but much, much, much less often. Women are nothing to leave behind on the quest for something new, unless the woman has a man's children or his heart. And often, if he does not return, the children will grow up, search, and find him, find their fathers. Ladies, you do not have, nor do you seem to care about men's hearts. Many women today have become agents that cast men's hearts away for pittance and won't give the man her heart. So yes, as BGS has said here, men, incels, men, men that are seeking for good partners, good lives, and especially men who are trying to fulfill what they believe the Word of God is saying and promises what our life should be, are willing to travel and go far to spend money, to deal with danger, to deal with risk of losing, to take on this search, and to go distances to find what they want, to find what will satisfy their heart, will find what they believe is the purpose for their life. And even especially when those men are trying to please God, please the Father, and follow what the Word of God is saying is a good, right, and proper relationship, and what God has promised they can have if they trust in Him, then yes, men will travel and take the challenge and take the effort and the risk to find what they're looking for. This is what men are made of. This is what men have always been made of. This is what propels us in life. And men will, I believe, always choose to go after that and go after what's in their heart, to follow their purpose, and will leave you behind to find it. But it's been proven over decades and centuries that that search is valuable to satisfy the longing in men's hearts, and often they find what they're looking for. And if you don't agree with that, you have the right of your choice, and that's your decision. That's the blessing of God, that we have the right to choose. But guess what? History has proven and shown that men go searching and men eventually find. Period. The adventure, the risk, the travel, the investment is worth the cost, especially if it pleases God and satisfies our soul. BGS talks about his brother's frustration, and I understand that, and how men have gotten frustrated with the situation, especially in this day and time, because the situation and the struggle and the push that agents have produced is extreme, or on steroids, as he says, in this day and time. And he made the point that men are pushing back, and he says that even white men are pushing back during this day and time. And I've seen it, and I agree, pushing back in steroids. And I encourage men to do that. We have needed to identify and put forth a standard to bring this society back around, because God looks at us as the leaders and as men to set a standard. And In many ways, we've been whipped, p-whipped, as the old man would say, because of what we wanted, which first of all we weren't supposed to be living for and chasing after anyway. But in this day and time, seems like men have gained an understanding and just have gotten tired and are creating a standard. It's not that it hasn't always been there, but for so often and for many years, and I know even growing up, that I would see the results that women seemed to want the men that were treating them wrong, the men they considered exciting, the men that weren't trying to, at least not trying to produce or make the success or treat them in a pleasing way. Even Tupac changed his character, changed his actions, because when he found that when he tried to treat women nice and respectably, they laughed at him. They called him, as he said, too soft and too nice. Yes, I have heard that. I've had women say to me that they were attracted, but they wouldn't get involved with me because I was too nice. And I heard that multiple times, a complaint that I was too nice, that I was not hard enough, or even would say things to me like, you're not black enough. And it would be amazing and confusing until, thank God, I found the manosphere, MGTOW, and the knowledge that brothers were sharing there and experiences they were sharing that validated my heart and said that I am not delusional. This is what has been happening, and that I have made many of the right choices that have kept my soul from being cast into hell, or that have not destroyed my heart or my belief that there are good women out there, or women that desire a good man, at least a man who's trying to be good by the grace of God. And so, again, this speaks of the pendulum that I've spoken about. I absolutely agree that it has escalated to extreme levels, and thank God men have come to the point of saying, stop, enough, I will not accept this, I do not want this, and I do not have to accept this. Thank God that we as black men have found there's an appreciation of us outside of the United States, that there's an appreciation for us in other places. I found that on a small scale when I left my home and moved to another state, even though I found it still tough to find the character woman that I was looking for. But thank God one day I did with my wife, and we've been married for 23 years. But I encourage the brothers, especially the C brothers these days, to take a stand, to identify a standard, to present that standard, and trust the word of God, trust the promises of God that's in your spirit and in your heart, and go forth to achieve it. Identifying the purpose that He's identified for you, and living your life and going forward. And He will bring the woman that you need in your life at the right time. Not that it won't be work, and not that you still won't have to decipher and be careful and test every spirit. But God is faithful. And so I hear and understand and believe what BGS is saying here.
What are men looking for? What is he looking for? It's really simple. They're looking for women that will give them and show them her heart. Women overseas know when a man, no matter what color he is, comes from America into a developing country, developing area, and she encounters him. She can't offer him money because she doesn't have any. Sex, he can get anywhere. He can get it in that country from anywhere from 200 or 300 women. They're willing to offer because of what he has. He can get sex anywhere. He can get a woman that cooks for him anywhere. Even come down to being a traditional woman and a wife. In the country, in her area neighborhood, in her city, in her country, on her continent. He can go to 7 continents and find the same thing at different levels, but the same thing. What does that woman have that he wants that she can offer him to get him to commit to her? Her heart.
What can she offer him? Her heart. That is so. Again, what can she offer him? Her heart. BGS, that is such a clear revelation, so to the point that I can see, and when you say it, like turns on a light bulb in the heads, in the idea, in the brains of men.
Love and basketball. If you remembered at the very end, the woman that homeboy is going to marry, much better looking, much more feminine, much more invested in him. Why did he end up marrying Monica at the end? He's getting ready to get married in 2 or 3 weeks.
Partial clip from Love and Basketball should be inserted here.
You asked me what was missing.
What?
From basketball.
You woke me up to tell me that?
It's not fun for me to know because you're missing. What I'm trying to say is, I've loved you since I was 11. It won't go away.
You haven't talked since college. You wait 2 weeks before my wedding to tell me something like that.
I probably should have had it 2 weeks ago.
You haven't changed. You still think the sun rises and sets on you. Guess what? It doesn't.
Why are you so upset?
Because you don't pull this shit on someone who's about to get married.
Better late than never. Right?
Wrong.
I'll play you.
What?
One game, one-on-one.
For what?
Your heart.
I hope you received something thought-provoking and action-inspiring from what you've heard. Please select the subscribe button and leave a comment to activate the YouTube algorithm. I am a new channel trying to grow, and your actions will make the difference in whether that happens. Please subscribe and select the notification button so that you are notified of new content. With your influence, I hope to share something that motivates and encourages you and others. Thank you. Blessings.